Hey everybody, this is Tracy here with another edition of A View from Tracy's Point, and we are here with another segment of the R series. And tonight I'm going to go in a little different direction. First, I'm going to give you guys just some real quick updates of things that have taken place since the last video that I did. And then I'm going to go into story time. So story time is where I'm going to tell you a little short story about my life, and then I'm going to apply it to something that is actually going on today to kind of help you guys understand why I think the way I do. But it is R. Kelly related. So before we get to the story time, let me give you guys some quick updates. So you remember last week we talked about, R. Kelly going to child support court and how Drea came in. She actually showed up for that hearing where she hadn't been to the other hearings. And I was asking you guys, did you think Drea was trying to get some footage to add to the growing up hip hop story? And so a lot of you agreed that that's probably what she was doing. Well, if you go on social media like the Shade Room, on Twitter, on Instagram, all these different places, whenever anybody is talking about Drea and what she's doing, Drea is like getting dragged. Like, I can't really find anybody that supports her. And basically, even if you think that she's right for wanting the child support, and we don't deny any child their child support that's rightfully due. And what's so hard to digest about this whole situation is that Drea and Robert's kids are grown. Like, the boy is 17. They say he's going to turn 18 this month. The other two we know are 19 and 21. And so this notion that he should be giving her this $22,000 a month is kind of crazy to some people. And then just the way she's going about doing things. But anyway, Drea has gotten since February. So she got $161,000 last month or the month before for the back child support. And then when he was in court last week, he gave her $62,000, which covered March, April, and May. And then he's supposed to be putting more money into an escrow account to cover either the next 2 or 3 months. So 62 and 161, that is $223,000 that she's gotten. So, remember she brought up in court about the $32,000 in interest. So, there was some debate about who gets the interest. So, I did a little research, and Drea actually is going to get that $32,000 in interest. A lot of people were saying that it was court fees, but it's not. There are several states that have laws. I think the research I did said 15 states have laws where if you have a settlement against somebody and they don't pay the settlement in the time that they're supposed to, that you can add interest onto the amount they owe you. And then for child support is for the back child support. And so the article I was reading was a few years old, but at the time it was put out, it stated that Chicago charges 9%, has a 9% interest rate. And so you can collect that interest monthly dating back to the time that the child support became delinquent. So once it was 30 days delinquent, then she could start calculating the interest. And I think it said that you can go to jail for not paying the child support. He's not going to go to jail for not paying the interest. Okay, so he doesn't really have to worry about that. But he should go ahead and pay her them $32,000 so she can go somewhere and sit down. So the other thing that came out during the child support case was the where she said he was supposed to be paying for tuition and that he hadn't been paying the tuition. And so basically Mr. Kelly is saying, well, she was supposed to provide documentation that she was actually in school. And so there was some going back and forth about whether or not Joanne was in school in Miami or if she was in school in California. So some people were saying that she used to live in Miami, and when she was in Miami, she was actually in college in Miami. Well, this article came out in TMZ which said that she was going to the California Art School or School of Art or something like that, that R. Kelly was paying for, that he was paying the tuition, and he was also paying for an apartment that she lived in. And so the agreement was that she was supposed to send him the bill, like he needed proof that she was actually in college, before he was going to send any more money. And so evidently she never sent the proof, so he stopped sending the money. And so people were talking about, oh, that was horrible, he got her kicked out of school and all of that. But I am here to tell you, like, I know firsthand, personally, I know people who have sent their kids to college. The kids have, most colleges, if they're a reputable college, they want the kids to stay on campus. Like your freshman year, you have to live on campus in the dorm, and then after that, you can do whatever you want to. So I know people who have sent their kids to college. They stayed in the dorm the first semester, and then the second semester, not the first semester, the first year, and then in their sophomore year, they say, okay, well, I don't want to live on campus anymore. I want to get an apartment. And so that kids have rights, and once they go to college, they do not have to give you access, even though the parent is the one that's paying for this college. We don't have access to our kids' records. So we have to either trust that they're telling the truth, trust that they're going to give us the login and the password so that we can view their grades or whatever. So I know people whose kids went off to college, got an apartment, and then when it came time, 4 years later, came time to graduate, then it was, oh, well, I'm missing some credits. I need to stay a little while longer. And then they went back and said, okay, when are you graduating? Only to find out that the kids had been dropped out of school like years earlier, but they've been sending money, paying for apartments, paying for food, paying electricity, and the kids weren't even in college. So for that reason, him requesting that documentation before he kept paying that money, he was right on with that. Because like I said, I know people who have done it. And I remember when my oldest daughter was in college and she wanted to get her own place. And I was like, no, ma'am. I said, now, if you get your own place, you're going to pay for your own place. I'm not paying for your own place. So she left the dorm, got her own apartment. She struggled. She was angry. She was bad. But I was like, that wasn't the deal. But, by the grace of God, she graduated, went on to get her master's degree. And then my youngest daughter, she had no choice but to stay in the dorm because she went to college on tennis scholarship. So I knew where she was at. I knew she was in school because I was traveling to them tennis tournaments and everything. But yes, don't trust your kids. If your kids is in college and they start talking about they want to move into an apartment, they need to be sending you some grades. They need to be sending you a login and ID to that to the grading system at that college before you start paying for them to be living off campus, having a party, just enjoying life, footloose and fancy free. So anyway, TMZ ran this story, and they're making it seem like Joanne has come to the press and said, that R. Kelly, that her dad has stopped paying her tuition and she was forced to drop out. But if you really read the article, and I always point you guys back to the Trust Me I'm Lying video that I did. But basically it's saying, sources are saying that Joanne said this. So we already know it's Drea feeding this story to the media that he forced that child to drop out of college. But my thing is, Drea, if you were getting $22,000 up until you started to do that Surviving R. Kelly series, why you didn't pay for your child to go to college and to stay in college? If she was there and she was waiting on this tuition to be paid, why would you get her kicked out of school? Why didn't you just pay the tuition and then deal with the daddy later on, or better yet, why y'all didn't just send the paperwork that he was asking for so he could pay the tuition and pay for the apartment, and then the girl could be done graduated by now. Y'all need to stop playing. So then the next thing was K. Michelle did an interview, and so people I had read a couple of months ago where they said that K. Michelle wouldn't talk about the R. Kelly situation, and some people were saying that she had dragged him and said that everything was true. Well, she did an interview, and y'all know I didn't write down who the interview was with, but it was with Jason Lee. I remember him. So whatever little YouTube thing he has going on, he interviewed K. Michelle, and when they got around to asking about R. Kelly, she became a bit emotional, and she basically said that he saved her life. He gave her a place to live. He helped her with her career when everybody else had turned their back on her, and she was having problems with meth hits. Y'all know what I'm talking about. The one she said tore up her pocket. Okay, so she basically said that she would never speak out against R. Kelly. That you don't turn on people who were there for you. He was her only support, the only person that helped her. Helped her career and everything. When she said that she actually had the choice to choose between R. Kelly producing her first CD and Memphis producing, and she chose Memphis, and he screwed her over, and then y'all know he turned out to be crazy and abusive and all that stuff. And so she said she's never ever going to speak out against R. Kelly. She said, but somebody need to get with these mamas, because she said she done been to the house plenty of times, and the mamas of these children that's talking about they were abused and all this stuff. So they was in the kitchen cooking dinner. Okay, so I don't know whose mama she was talking about. I know people say that Dominique mom, the Kramer lady, that her and R. Kelly had a business relationship, and that he was the one that paid for her to open her business that she has in Chicago. So she might have been one of the people that was in the kitchen cooking. I don't know who else was in the kitchen cooking. What else? Oh, Kitty Jones announced a few weeks ago, about 2 weeks ago, that she was taking her book off the market. The book that she wrote about, talking about her relationship with R. Kelly and how she was abused and all this stuff. So she said she took that off the market, that she has 17 paperback copies available. If anybody want to buy them, go to her website and y'all can purchase them 17 copies. And after she sold all them copies, she's done with the book. It's no longer available. So why do y'all think Miss Kitty took that book off the market and is no longer, was the book not selling? Were people starting to catch up with some of the lies she was telling in the book? Is she having a change of heart? Like, what is going on that she took that book off the market? Then the story came out about, remember when Kim Fox came out and was pleading for people to come and tell their stories to her, and information that they had on R. Kelly and his, whatever was going on with this cult and everything. Well, she set up a hotline. So we are now learning that they got more people calling the hotline talking about how they slept with R. Kelly and how good it was and how good he was in bed. And men calling in talking about they knew women that had slept with R. Kelly, that they had to take their phone line down. So it got me to thinking, like, if you got all these people, like, you put out this call and you got the Jim DeRogatis guy who's claiming that he has records on 48 women who say that they were abused by this man. Why is it that when she put this call out, that the best sources that she could get, the best so-called victims that she could come up with, were Geronda Pace, the Lanita Carter, Heather Williams, which I think her whole thing is going to fall apart come June 19th when they do back in court to talk about her case, which is going to be so interesting. And then the tape with the Rishana Landfair that's supposed to be on that tape. And I'm just thinking, like, did they put that whole thing out there about the tape trying to bait her to come forward or bait other people to come forward to testify that this is her in this video, because I don't understand where they're going with that. And we talked about the deep fakes and everything, and I don't know if you guys watch Game of Thrones. So twice in the past week they've had issues where in one filming there was a Starbucks cup on the table, and y'all know this is like this movie, well, not movie, this show is set like ain't no Starbucks this show is set. And so they were able to remove that Starbucks cup out of the episode digitally. And now it came out that one of the characters, and I don't watch the show, so one of the characters is missing a hand. I guess his hand was chopped off or something. And so there was a promo that came out where he's hugging another character on the show, and the hand that was supposed to be chopped off is seen like on her back. And so now they've gone in and removed the hand. So this is just letting you know that these people can do to video whatever they want to. And then when they were in court, also the court hearing, I finally went back and watched the video, only lasted a little over 8 minutes. So this man got to get up, get dressed, get his entourage together to come down to this courthouse for these 8-minute hearings. But in the hearing, we found out, that they still haven't given him the VHS tape. And then he said something about they offered him a compressed CD. So I don't know if the prosecutor's office recorded the VHS tape to a CD, and that's what they're trying to give the defense, or if he's saying that the tape that Avenatti gave to the prosecutors was on a CD, a compressed CD. But whatever the situation is, they still haven't seen the VHS tape, and they're trying to give him a CD, but he wants to see whatever Avenatti gave. And then I'm thinking maybe they can't show him what Avenatti gave because they are having the FBI or somebody look at this tape. They're trying to authenticate it and make sure that it is the real deal. And like I told you with the deep fakes, they say that it's virtually impossible to know whether or not they're real or not, unless, especially if a professional has done it. And then what else? Oh, and then they came out that they got so the prosecutors have a release from the Heather Williams lady to get copies of her school records. And so the defense was saying, okay, well, we need the school records, the bank records, the lawyer records for Heather Williams, Geronda Pace, the Lanita Carter, because now they're trying to come up and say that either these people never got settlements from R. Kelly, or that the settlements that they got were not negotiated by R. Kelly, and that somebody else was negotiating with these women and paying this money behind his back, and that he knew nothing about it. And then what else? And then he wants to know if the parents were involved, and basically who authorized it. And then they're going after the attorney, because evidently all these lawsuits that have taken place were orchestrated by this one attorney, this white lady named Suzanne Logans. She's the one that's handled the Tracy Sampson. Remember when he was working for, he was signed with Jive Records, and she was an intern. So she handled that lawsuit. She handled a lawsuit from somebody named Hawkins, Tiffany Hawkins, I think it is. And then she handled Geronda Pace's lawsuit. And so this lady has like made a living, I guess, or built her law firm off of suing R. Kelly and getting these women this money. So I guess the idea is that there was somebody working for R. Kelly who knew this woman, and I guess maybe they were in cahoots together in getting these lawsuits paid. So it is going to get very, very interesting as things go along. And then I was wondering, after last week, where is Jocelyn and Azriel? Like, is it part of the new legal team strategy to keep them hidden away where they can't kind of get the public's mind off of them, to not have them coming to the hearings, because they have just seemed, since that interview with Gayle King, we ain't seen or heard from. I think the only thing I heard about Jocelyn was the fact that the lawyer was talking to somebody. He was being interviewed, and he said that he was at the condo, or whatever they call it up in Chicago, at the Trump Tower, and that they were hungry, and that Jocelyn went down to the was it Chick-fil-A? I think it was. They say she went to, it's like a couple of blocks away, and then she walked down the street and got them something to eat. So we ain't heard from them. And then, of course, Azriel Daddy be all on Instagram going off, and then whoever his friend is that's behind the victims of Kales, he got started the other day where he was like, oh, I bet he's not going to even let them call and wish their mothers a happy Mother's Day. And I'm thinking, okay, but they've been there 4 years. Have they called the prior 4 years to wish their mothers a happy Mother's Day? Like, stop acting like this just happened. Okay, they've been with the man for 4 years now. So whatever the behavior was in the previous years, then that's what the behavior is now. And so, and then the last thing, and actually I'm going to do I'm just going to drop this video and let you guys watch it because it went on longer than I expected. And then I'll do a separate video for the story time. But the other thing is, I don't know if you guys remember the show Court TV. Like, if you were around during O.J. Simpson, then you're probably familiar with the O.J. Simpson trial. You're probably familiar with Court TV. Well, Court TV is 24-hour. It was a 24-hour channel that just showed court cases around the clock, and they showed them live. Well, they came back on May 8th, just in time to get rolling with this R. Kelly situation. And they had Steve Greenberg on their show. So they have it posted on the website for the replay. It was an interesting interview, and he's just basically catching everybody up to speed and saying why he thinks that these charges are either going to be dismissed, or that a jury is not going to find him guilty. And he talked, just keeping everybody up to date as to what's going on. And so I think it's worth, watching the interview and hearing what he has to say, because he is the lawyer. And then you don't have all us Monday morning quarterbacks giving you our perspectives of what's happening and trying to keep up with all the different stuff that's going on. But some of the things that he talked about the video, and how they haven't given him the video yet and they're trying to copy it for him. He talks about, they get into the conversation about double jeopardy, and how he seems to be kind of changing his tune, because remember in the beginning he was saying that if there is a video, then the video is, it'll be double jeopardy, because it was part of the 2008 case. But now he's saying that it's a little more difficult to prove, and that he still thinks that they can, bring in the double jeopardy and get it thrown out. But there's certain circumstances that you have to look at, like, was it the exact same tape? Are they trying to build a case around that tape to introduce the new tape? So it's like different things that you have to look at. And just some other things that he was pointing out that were kind of interesting about the case. And so I think it's worth looking at. And you can watch that playback if Court TV doesn't come on in your area, because they're just now starting back up and they're building back up to the different cable providers. And so I get DirecTV. They are not on DirecTV as of yesterday. They weren't on DirecTV. But you can watch the live streams on their website, which is courttv.com. And just stay, not even the R. Kelly case, but any case. Like right now they're covering the case of the football player who was going around raping women, and then they're covering the case where the little girl was killed, and the parents, it's like 4 people that could be suspects, but they're not going to try them together. They're going to try them separately. And so they're talking about, and that's a whole interesting case, but they killed this little girl. And so that'll be interesting one to keep up with. But just high profile cases that are going on. And so do you guys think Court TV came back because of the R. Kelly, because they want to be ready when the R. Kelly trial comes on? Or do you think it was just pure coincidence that the show decided to reboot and come back on? So I'm going to go ahead and end this video, and then I'm going to do the story time video, and I'll actually do the story time video as a premiere. So check for that in probably like an hour or an hour and a half. So that's it for me, guys. Leave your comments below, rate the video, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And until the next time, I shall talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.